All good things must come to an end. And today that would be the sweet potato trellis. I am devastated that we have to see it go. The leaves are yellowing. I can see the soil rising. I don't know if you can tell, but the soil is lifting up like a little hill, like a little mound right here because of all the sweet potatoes growing in there. At least I hope so. Same on this side. Yellowing of the leaves. It's been about 100 or so days. Have sweet potatoes sticking out of the soil. It is time. So we are going to go ahead and get started demolishing the sweet potato trellis. And most of the leaves, the ones that look really good and healthy, will be blanched and frozen like spinach. So let me go ahead and get started. We planted the sweet potato slips, which are the leaves with the roots attached to it, on April 26th, which is a little bit early, but I just couldn't help myself. We planted them in 2 small Birdie's raised beds with the hog panel fence trellis that we got from Tractor Supply. I used slips that we started from last year's harvest. It was about 15 of them. And we also bought slips. Both of them are the Beauregard variety. It took about 8 to 9 weeks for the vines to really cover the trellis and start to spill over the beds, but after that, it really just took off. We fertilized 3 times during the course of the 4 months, once with powdered fertilizer and the rest with fish fertilizer. To start cutting back these vines, I'm just going to trace the vines back to as far as I can, kind of like a little detangling of ropes. And I'm just going to cut back as far as I can, and I'm going to use these beautiful healthy leaves are going to be the leaves that I saute. And you'll notice that when you pluck these leaves, there's like little white milky drippage, like latex there. I just dunk this in a bowl of water, rinse it off, and then shake it out in the colander. But I'm going to go ahead, show you guys one example before I put on my headphones and get to trimming. So just going to go all the way back here where that sweet potato is. So you guys can see here, I can see the root of the sweet potato starting there. And I just cut that vine that I just lost, actually. There it is. And I'm just going to take this whole thing here. Yep. And I'm going to take this up to the deck. And I'm going to sit in the deck under the fan and cut these leaves off. So let me put on my headphones and get started. Okay, so most of the vines are clear. And as you can see, the soil is a little bit lumpy. I'll do a little close up for you guys. But the lumpiness is because the tubers are growing underneath the soil. So I'm going to go ahead and put on my gloves and start digging up these sweet potatoes. So when you're harvesting the sweet potatoes, this batch of sweet potatoes actually made it very easy for me because they're like harvesting themselves. But what you want to do is just gently move the soil from around the potatoes. That way you're not scratching up the skin too much, which I've done it often, even as early as yesterday. So just try your best to kind of, well, wear gloves. Let me put on my gloves. Okay, now we have gloves. So you're gonna just move them around. You can use like a garden stake if you are planting them in the ground. But if you are planting them in containers or a raised garden bed like this, you can just gently use your hands. You can use a trowel, but you can use a trowel or a hori-hori knife, but I don't think it's necessary. So I'm just gonna continue like a little archaeologist, moving the soil all the way around, and then I'm gonna jiggle it back and forth and pull it upwards. And then you can see how huge and massive this sweet potato is. Huge. All right, so I'll just sit this one here, and let's grab another one. This one has a strange, oh, that's just a vine, so that's nothing. All right, so I'm just gonna move this around and pull. And you can see just how many we have here. So we can pull this off. There we go. Of course, right after I said that you shouldn't need a hori-hori knife, I find myself using it because the soil has gotten really compact with all of the potatoes growing in them. So if you do have to use a tool for assistance, try your best to be gentle. As background, this is my 4th time growing sweet potatoes. The first time and the second time were both in the ground. The first time we got a few sweet potatoes, not enough to say we got a huge harvest, but we were happy to say that we successfully did it, right? We grew sweet potatoes. The second time around was in the ground, but there were just way too many weeds and we got like 1 or 2 very small sweet potatoes. So nothing to be too proud of. But the third time around, we used one of these small raised beds and we got a pretty good harvest, but we were not that confident in the curing process. So if you're not familiar with the curing process, this is when you keep your sweet potatoes in a warm environment with high humidity for like 7 to 10 days or 2 weeks or so. And that converts the starch into sugars and gives you a more flavorful and sweet potato. So at that point in time, we really didn't know how to get it done. So we had some starchy sweet potatoes. This year we doubled growing, but we are trying a few different methods for curing. So we will do an updated video on that and I'll keep you posted on how that goes, the successes, the failures, so on and so forth. As far as this harvest goes, it looks like I'm going to have to do a part 2 because harvesting the leaves took a little bit longer than expected. And digging up these potatoes also took a little bit more than expected. So let me head over to the house and I'm going to trim up the leaves I have and we'll come back and do part 2 for the second bed. Now I'm back for part 2 and yes, I am so sick of these leaves already, but it feels good to add some greens to the freezer and we don't have to worry about it in the wintertime. This second bed actually has a lot more vines because these were the plants that I bought from the store. So they were much further along than the slips I grew myself. I also noticed that there were more potatoes in this bed and there were more larger potatoes than the first bed. Another thing to note is that you'll see most of the potatoes right where you planted the slips. So for instance, in this case, there was a slip planted right here and we have sweet potatoes that are right underneath there, but they can grow pretty deep. You'll also see that as the roots kind of lay across the soil, they will also start to sprout different little sweet potatoes. So you'll have younger sweet potatoes along these roots. So the more your sweet potato vines touch ground, the more more sweet potatoes you'll have. So for harvesting, just focus on the areas where the slips are and then spread out because they will grow. Some of these really larger potatoes are really tough to get out, so you may have to use a little bit of force. And of course, the camera cut off for this one right when I got them out. So here's what it looks like after that bit of a struggle. This potato is a great example of how easy the skin is bruised. When you're pulling them out of the dirt, it's very easy to rub the skin off, so be very careful. Curing the sweet potatoes will toughen the skin, so you don't have to worry about that later. And there we have it, this year's harvest of sweet potatoes, and it's our biggest one yet. If you like this video, please like, share, and go ahead and subscribe if you want. Or if you want to check out what's growing in the garden, everything that's growing, check out this video right here. Thanks for watching.